We are live. Good morning, team. Hope you're having a super great day. I'm going to tag everyone real quick, and then we're going to get into this story. I'll also give an opportunity for everyone to populate. If you guys are watching this on recording, feel free to like this. You can comment, let me know you're here. It'll just push it to more people in the group so that hopefully we can inspire hope. That's what today's podcast is about. I'm going to share some stories, but at the end of the day, if you're needing hope, I think it was John Maxwell that said, hope in the future is power in the present. Being hopeless is one of the worst places we can be, because you can have all the skills in the world, you can have the path laid out in front of you, but if you don't believe the path you're going to take is going to get you to where you want to be, you won't take a single step. And you might wonder why are you wearing those construction headphones today? Well, you see, my son is on the other side of this wall, and occasionally he'll let out a wail. And when he does, I don't want to lose my focus, because I want to make sure that even if we can just reach one person today that needs to hear a story of hope and to know that they can change, I want to do that. So let's tag everyone in here. Do you have hope in the future? That's the question. Come say hey. All right, let's dive in. I have some things I'm going to share with you guys today, but we'll start with the story. You've probably heard the story before of the two dogs and the Eskimo. It goes back into the 70s, and this is back in Alaska, where they used to have these vicious dog fights every Saturday. Of course, we wouldn't do that in today's day and age, but back then, it was commonplace. And they'd have these fights, and they would bet on the dogs. And there was a white dog, and there was a black dog. And every week, week after week, one of the people in the village noticed that the owner of the dogs always bet on the winning dog. And that perplexed the villager. So he went up to the Eskimo and he had said, "How do you always bet on the winning dog?" And the Eskimo kind of just turned and gave a little grin. He says, "Well, that's easy. I always bet on the dog I've been feeding all week." Obviously, it's pretty easy to understand that if a dog is well fed, it will triumph over the weaker dog. You see, inside of us, we have these two dogs that are always fighting for supremacy, that are always fighting to be on top, to win. And one's a positive dog, and one's a negative dog. And negativity sprouts its head in many ways. It's anything that disempowers you. And then you have positivity, which is anything that empowers you. How do you know the difference? Well, disempowering feelings suppress you. Suppress, the opposite of express. They make you want to sit and ponder and talk slow, and they depress us. Empowering thoughts, they get you going. They light you up. They propel you to take action because you believe that this action is going to give you a certain result, so you do it. But it starts with which dog we are feeding. And this goes back to a formula that I've shared many times and will continue to share until probably the day I die. And that is that our thinking determines our actions, which determines our results. Now, this equation is a little incomplete because before thinking, is our input. You see, if you aren't getting any new input, and the dogs right now in your mind, you have the disempowering dog, the negative dog that's winning, guess what's happening? Well, you're just keeping that record player going. And that record player is spitting out the same stuff that it's always spit out. Your hormones are the reason you can't lose weight. Your body's different. This won't work. You've tried and failed so many times. How could there be something that's different? if that's the topic we're talking about. But apply this to any area of life that we've yet to master. See, I believe that we were not put on this planet to suffer. I don't believe that was why we were put to be here. I don't think we were meant to be here to survive, to get through our day-to-day, to finish a week and go, oh my God, oh, like, what a week. I don't think that's what we were meant to be here to do. I think we were put here to thrive. And apart from religious beliefs, I just believe that we are meant to thrive. So anytime I am not thriving in my life, it goes against my belief system that something is wrong. If I am not thriving, something needs to be fixed. I will not accept that this is how life is meant to be. Anytime that I am at a point in my life where I am feeling disempowered, the scales have shifted, and now I am feeling more disempowered than empowered, I know I have to change my input. You see, being depressed is a signal. Being depressed isn't something you have. You do not have depression. Do not label yourself with depression. Now you might say, but I am depressed. That's fine. I'm not saying you're not depressed. But I'll say that you experience depression. You see, the strongest force in the human personality is staying consistent with the way we see ourselves. If you believe you are a certain way, well, you will always exude the characteristics of who you believe you are. The example here is, if you believe you're a writer, well, guess what? You write. If you're a mother, guess what? You nurture. And if a couple days go by, or maybe you have a day where you're not nurturing as well, guess what? You snap right back to it. Why? Because it's who you believe you are. If you are depressed, you're screwed. If you experience depression, that's something you can get out of. And I have experienced depression. I've experienced sadness. I've experienced grief. I've experienced pain. But these are signals something needs to change. And I believe it was the late Zig Ziglar that said, you are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. But you can change what you are. You can change where you are simply by changing what goes into your mind. And that's what I'm here to do with you right now. I'm hoping to plant a new seed. You see, every single day, at the gate of our mind, things are coming in. And it's up to us to be able to reject the things we do not want and be able to accept and seek out the things that we want to put there. The seeds that will eventually blossom into the person that we are, into the actions that follow to be the person that we want to be. And the fact of the matter is, if somebody came into your house, whether you knew them or not, and they just came in and started funneling in like a bucket brigade trash into your living room, I'm sure you'd feel a certain way about that. I'm sure you'd probably go to that person and have a couple words to share with them. And yet, knowingly or unknowingly, people we love or people we don't even know in the form of media, radio, TikTok, social media, TV, are flooding our minds with negative, disempowering garbage. It's a no wonder we're feeling disempowered. Look, I don't care how resilient you are. You cannot sit and hear garbage, disempowering beliefs, thoughts, and become an empowered person that gets what they want. It's not possible. Not that I've seen. So yeah, I'm up on my soapbox today to hopefully reach you on this Friday as we're going into the weekend. If you're feeling exhausted, take inventory. We are not meant to survive. We were not put here to survive. We were put here to thrive. And ask yourself the question, am I thriving? Are you? Really? If you are not thriving, that's a signal. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean that things were done to you, or it doesn't not mean things were done to you that were unfair. But what it does mean is that it's time for a change. And I'm not saying that changes with us. Look, yeah, we offer one-on-one coaching. That's not what this is about. This group is not designed purely to get you to sign up for one-on-one coaching with us and pay us money. That is a result of what we do by making podcasts and sharing things in this group. Yes, that will happen, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to reach people, to have them break through. And look, whether it's one podcast that they tune in and they hear and they think, wow, something could be different. And then they go start their journey on their own. I can't tell you how many people over the last 16 years I've done coaching has sent me a DM out of the blue saying, hey, I saw a video that you posted 2 years ago and I just thought, wow, I was watching something else and it said, what started your journey? And I realized it was your video. And here's what I've done. And I've lost 60 pounds and I've kept it off for 6 months now. And I didn't even realize, and they never even used us for coaching. That's what this is about. This is about making change. Look, if you want to use a coach because you want to compress decades into days with us, fine. That's cool. I won't say no as long as we have room. But this is about you making a change. And look, ask yourself, if you're in a, tough financial position, that's not a reason not to take action. I don't mean action with a coach, but I mean action. Look, whether you are, in debt, living check to check, or absolutely affluent, you can take a lot of the same actions to be able to get to your goal. You see, a lot of us know what to do. It's not a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of motivation. But where does motivation come from? Right between our two ears, baby. Our brain. Our motivation comes from our brain, right? This isn't about the science of weight loss, right? A coach, yes, they help you with the mechanics, but this is about getting you into it's leveraging human nature. It's getting you into the right space mentally that you can make these changes. And I'm doing my best to give that to you for free. I'm doing my best to put a podcast up every day, for the most part. And if you just sit here and listen, and you accept the good seeds that I'm trying to put and plant into that garden of your mind, I know for sure you can break through. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to get you all hyped up. I'm saying it because I've seen it again and again and again. Look, there's only one reason that I'm a coach. Maybe a few. But I'll tell you my origin story. Every superhero has an origin story, right? And I believe at our core, we all believe we're a hero or we wouldn't do what we do, right? We wouldn't be in the medical field exhausting ourselves if we didn't believe we were making a big change, right? If we didn't believe we were heroes. So it started with me because of my mom. You guys probably already know this story, so I'll make it condensed. Long story short, my mom wanted a personal trainer. Look, I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My parents couldn't afford a personal trainer. They were living check to check. We never had food scarcity, but at the same time, there wasn't a lot of extra left over. And my mom really wanted to break through, and I'd been working out for a couple years, naive 15, 16-year-old, and she said, I guess I can't do this because I can't afford it. Ugh. That's part of why I do what I do now. And I provide so much stuff for free. Or I think I do. Maybe you can tell me if I'm doing a bad job. What else do you need? I mean, we have stuff on nutrition, on fitness, on mindset. I mean, I'm trying to give you all the secrets. I'm trying not to keep anything behind the gate. I'm trying to give you it all. Because I know there are people like where my mom was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that need a breakthrough and can't afford to pay somebody else to do it. So I'm trying to give it to you. But you got to listen. You got to open your ears. You have to be open to something new, right? And if you can afford a coach, great. I highly recommend it. But that's not what this is about. My mom, she was feeling defeated, disempowered. She'd become a shell of herself from when I was probably 8 years old to 15, and I saw it happen slowly but surely. She had gained about 30 pounds, 35 pounds. She couldn't afford a personal trainer, so she said, well, just guess it's just not in the cards for me. Well, me being the mama's boy that I always have been, was like, I'll help you. I'll figure it out. Let's do it. So guess what? I put her through what I thought was the best plan at the time. Now, years later, I know it was very wrong, but I had passion. And it was just, I was very empowered, but I had the wrong mechanics. You see, we cut out all of her carbs. We had her eat only salads. We had her do an hour and a half of cardio a day. We pretty much, we sacrificed her sleep so that she could get a workout in after my younger sisters went to bed with me. And in 3 months, she gained 5 pounds. Man, talk about disempowered. She felt disempowered, was ready to quit. I felt disempowered because I was letting down my mom. Now, at the time, I was teaching martial arts, and I was lucky enough to kids, and I was lucky enough to, kind of break bread, and maybe not break bread because we weren't going out to dinners, but like rub shoulders with the parents of the kids I taught martial arts to. And it was a very successful martial arts school, so there was a lot of them. And they were gym owners, nutritionists, personal trainers, gym owners, physical therapists. And I was lucky enough to befriend a lot of them and was able to start shadowing with them and learning how to actually get results. Now, that put me on the path to be able to learn a ton about psychology, which came later. But started with the mechanics. And once I learned the mechanics, the easy stuff, I'm talking about energy balance, right? You need to be burning more calories than you're eating to be able to burn fat from your body. All that good stuff. Resistance training to set you up for the long term, to help you appear more toned faster, fat loss phases versus muscle gain phases, And after I became obsessed, 5 months after that point, slowly, but sustainably, she lost 30 to 35 pounds. Now, she has sustained it now for about 16 years. I am not to credit for her sustaining it. I didn't know what I was doing back then for sustainability and psychology. She did that on her own. But it did put me on the path to doing this and committing my life to it because I got to see how it affected her life behind the scenes. See, at 16 years old, I did live with my parents. So as I was living with my parents, I saw that shell of a woman start to become alive again. I saw how she was more playful with my father. I saw how she was more patient with me and my siblings. I saw how she was more open to doing things and not just kind of live the day-to-day that she had gotten accustomed to. She was the one saying, hey, let's go out. Let's go to the aquarium. Let's go to the museum. Let's go to the park. Let's all take tennis lessons or whatever, right? Or start taking tennis. Couldn't afford lessons at the time. I do this because I realized that's really what changing your body does. I'm a big believer that your physical body is the foundation for your experience of life. It is the vehicle at which you experience life. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many friends you got. I don't care how successful you are in your career. If you do not have your body where you want it, your experience of life, assuming the others are the same, is going to be reduced. Either because you have less energy, less confidence, imposter syndrome, where, I've experienced that a lot of times with clients where they say, here I am being a, nurse practitioner, being a nurse and telling people, hey, you really need to drop some weight in order to, get this under control. And they kind of look at me and they go, okay. I can promise you that once that resolved, not only do you have a huge amount of peace of mind, but you also have just this physical energy and vitality that follows you. And I will be the first to admit that the first about 4 to 5 years of that personal training journey, up until I was about 22, I did the wrong things. And regrettably, we all learn, but regrettably, I was the coach that today I despise. You see, I actually don't like the coaching industry. And you may say to yourself, well, hold on a sec. Aren't you a coach? Well, yeah. But the industry as a whole, I freaking hate. Why? Because it's all on gimmicks. It's trying to get you to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks, and it doesn't account for the underlying human nature that actually governs us, controls us. And you might say, oh, the human nature doesn't have any control over me. Oh, really? Look at your actions over the past week and identify if this is true. Have you gone towards pleasure and away from pain? If your answer is yes, then you are in line with at least that piece of human nature. Now you might say, well, hold on a sec. I did things I didn't want to do. Fair. But were you trying to avoid future pain? For example, you might say, well, I didn't want to wake up and take my kid to school, but I did it. Therefore human nature, what you're saying is wrong. Well, no. If we just extrapolate out far enough and we say, well, if you didn't do that enough, where you don't bring them to school, eventually you would be dealt with this huge amount of pain that you don't want to experience. So you just say, all right, I'll take this little pain and take them to school. And usually, very similarly, that's where we need to get to in our health in order to make a change. Because when we believe that the pain we'll experience is so far out in some mystical time that, oh man, I'll deal with it later, well, a lot of times we don't take action and we aren't willing to be able to start to experience some minor pains to alleviate the future major pain. But once you take that major pain and bring it to the present in your mind and you can put it in front of you and say, this is the future that holds for me if I do not take these actions, well, guess what? You'll be motivated to take some action. But if there's anything I've learned in the past 16 years of coaching, it is that you can be mad, and I'm saying this from personal experience for myself, that I can be mad that human nature is the way it is. I can be mad that I, as a human, do not like to do painful things and I like to do pleasurable things. Or I can accept it and act accordingly. I can set up my environment and I can set up the people around me and I can set up actions, I can set up systems to where naturally I am pulled towards these actions. Anyway, that's 24 minutes of ranting. If this resonates at all with you guys, feel free to let me know in the comments. A couple comments have come in. Paulette says, I do now, let's go. Kylie says, our bodies affect everything. Yes. If this resonates at all with you, let me know in the comments. Feel free to like this. More people can see it. At the end of the day, you'll hear me say many, many times that you are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. But you can change what you are. You can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. And that doesn't have to be with the content in this group. It can be, look, there's a ton of free content out there. My recommendation to you is seek it out. Do not let it interrupt you. What do I mean? Yes, scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours, you might come across one piece of content or 3 pieces of content that better your life. But in order to get those 3 pieces, you also have to deal with 197 that are just not helping you and that are flooding your mind and overloading your neocortex with information. Instead, use technology as a tool to seek out what will empower you. Again, it doesn't have to be this podcast, although I've put a bunch of these podcasts together where you don't have to look and you just go one-to-one to one-to-one. But if you're going to go on YouTube, if you're going to go on, TikTok, or I don't recommend it, but if you're going to go on these places, search for what you want. Every day we need to stand guard at the door of our mind and feed it something good. Our mind is like a garden, and I promise you that if you are not conscious about the seeds you plant, naturally, nightshade is going to be planted, which is a poison and kills all the other plants. Look, this sounds silly, like a kid's nursery rhyme. But I'm here to tell you that the power your mind has in making this change final, it's everything. And don't take my word for it. I'm sure there'll be some clients in the chat, in the comments below, that come in and say, yes. I saw Kylie was here a second ago. And, I'm sure they'll say yes. Like, if you're a client listening to this right now, let me know. Is that true? Is that a true statement? Is it not? That once you started focusing on the human nature, once you started focusing on the psychology of your mind, that all this became hell of a lot easier once you started going in line aligned with low pain, high pleasure, results based actions, right? Again, I said this before, but I'm not trying to gatekeep. I'm not trying to keep it a secret on like how all this works. Like, sure, the implementation, being able to do this and help you in real time, yeah, that costs money because our coaches need to be paid and the entire system needs to run. We have about a 15-person team now, including our coaches, our enrollment coaches, and so on. And that system takes money to run. But with that in mind, I'm trying to, day after day, give you the keys to the castle. Like, this is, yes, a very simple document. This is a very simple image, 4 steps. Oh man, it can't be that simple. It is. Like, this 4 steps is 16 years worth of work. Now, yes, there's a lot of nuance and in between that you don't see with each of these steps. But if you were just to follow these steps for your psychology, it would make you feel pulled towards these actions. And eventually, as long as you can focus on starting and never stopping again, which that's what this process allows you to do, you would have created a new fit identity. So let's go over that really quick. In case this is the first time you're seeing this, let's take a peek. Kylie says, it is true. She said, I looked at weight loss all the wrong in the past. Focus on the simple, small daily changes. Yes, totally. Angel says, have a good stream. Please give me those hooking moments, please. No doubt. We'll keep it going for you. So step 1, we're going to dive into this a little bit because maybe there's someone out there that has seen this, but you're not really sure how to implement it. So let's implement it together. Okay. And so you can understand it. So there's 4 steps. Step 1 is you need to create low pain, high pleasure, results-based actions. What does that mean? Human nature is to move away from pain and towards pleasure. If you don't believe me, why is it so hard to exercise where the pain is high today, the pleasure is low today? It doesn't matter about the future. It's all about present. Human brain has a really hard idea of quantifying the future, that it will happen one day. It's just not today. The brain, goes kind of a little bit binary, where it goes, oh, it's not today, it's not next week, it's not next month, it might not even be next year, it's too abstract, I'm not going to worry about it, right? Because we're meant to survive, right? Human brain has, designed to help you survive. But like I said in the past, I don't believe we're meant to survive. I think we're meant to thrive. So step 1, create low pain, high pleasure, results-based actions. Why do you want them to be low pain? You want them to be low pain so that no red flags go off in your brain and there's no resistance or less resistance, right? Of course, it can't be no pain, but low pain actions, okay? And I'll give you an example of this in a second. But you want it to be low pain so that there's less resistance, right? A lot of people have heard the word willpower. Oh man, I just need more willpower. No, you don't. Willpower's a lie. It doesn't exist. Willpower is real, but people who just keep doing actions because of willpower or try to convince you it's because of willpower does not happen for any good length of time. Humans just aren't designed to do that. It's always around low pain, high pleasure. And if you disagree, let me know. Give me the situation that you can prove, and then I will do my best to share that even that has its truth to this. So you want them to be low pain so that there's less resistance. You want them to be high pleasure, or as high pleasure as you can make them, because then you're going to feel pulled towards it, right? Think about all the actions that you're pulled towards already. Going on TikTok, opening your phone. Everyone's addicted to their phone, right? Going on Netflix. It could even be positive addictions, But all of these things we're addicted to are low pain, high pleasure. Now, the reason that I say in there results-based actions is because that is probably going to be one of the most pleasurable things you can get from these actions, is seeing results, right? How many times have you heard in the past, or I can't tell you how many times I've heard in the past, people, I say, how do you know you'll be having success? They'll be like, I need to see results. Cool. So make sure the results-based actions so that you can get results over time. But it's not just the actions themselves, the what, that leads to low pain, high pleasure. It's how. Here's what I mean. If you say, okay, I'm going to start exercising, for somebody that might be a 6 pain and a 2 pleasure. Okay, fine. But that's because they haven't worked out in a while, and they're doing high intensity interval training at a boot camp, which, hey, no shame to boot camps. I used to own boot camps in gyms before I transitioned solely to this, because I think this has bigger impact. When you have a low pain or a high pain, low pleasure action, it's a low pleasure action because you're essentially not seeing results today, and yet you're paying a huge cost. So therefore, all you need to have is one day you don't get good sleep, or you don't have the best interactions. You need to cope with these emotions. You don't want to go to the gym, and all it takes is a couple of those in a row, and then you're off the wagon. Or if instead we can say, okay, well, let me start with exercise that's less intense. What a concept. What's less intense for me? I don't want to go above right now a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. Well, you may say, well, yeah, but I won't get any results. That's not true. And it's not even about today. Remember, we're not trying to lose 6 pounds this week. We're trying to set you on a path that you start and never stop again, right? So in actuality, as long as we just never stop, eventually you'll get to an exercise level that's intense enough that you'll get really great results from exercise. But we don't need to start there. We need to start by leveraging how your brain works. So we're not going to go over 2 out of 3 out of 10 intensity for exercise, for pain. We want you to finish that and go, I could do this all the time. This is easy. Bingo. And you start to believe something different about yourself, which we'll talk about in step 4, which is, oh, wait, I can be fit. I can do these things. Because the strongest force in the human personality is staying consistent with the way we see ourselves. You'll hear me say that till I'm blue in the face. And you can make a, action like exercise more pleasurable a lot of different ways. The first way is exercise selection. So you might hate resistance training. You might hate walking, but you actually love riding a bike. Okay, cool, do that. Right? Identify how you can make this 2 out of 3 out of 10 exercise, pain-wise, more pleasurable. Can you do it with a friend? If you can't do it with a friend, can you call a friend? Something that I would be happy to share with you is I have a favorites list on my phone, which is all the people I call, all the people I would want to talk to. And it's like a list of 15 people. It's not a big list, but it's like on that list are like all my siblings, my parents, a couple friends. And when I am doing cardio, I call each person until one of them picks up. And if none of them picks up, I listen to a motivational tape. Why? Because I get pleasure out of talking to people and getting that human bond, that connection. But I rarely do it unless I'm doing cardio. So now my brain is connecting pleasure to cardio when really it's not the cardio that's giving my brain pleasure. It's the fact that I'm talking to a friend and feeling human connection and love while I'm doing cardio. It's a very similar situation with caffeine. Caffeine absolutely blows your brain up with dopamine, right? It makes you feel real high, real nice. Well, what if you only took caffeine before you did exercise? What would happen? The brain would start to associate exercise with feeling good. This is, in short, how I tricked my brain into loving exercise. And I don't recommend you do this, but I was 13 and didn't know a lot about human physiology. I don't do it anymore. But starting at the age of 13, 14 years old, I started taking 300 milligrams of caffeine before I worked out in those form of pre-workouts. Now, I didn't realize it at the time. That probably wasn't the healthiest thing I could be doing. But I'll tell you what it did do that was positive. It absolutely, it's hard to describe. I'll give you an example, but it absolutely made me an addict to exercise. So much so that I had to have people around me say, hey, I think you're doing a bit too much. But what a good problem to have. I'd rather be on that side of the scale than I hate exercise, right? Now I'm at a point in my life that I've taken down the caffeine dramatically, but I only ever take caffeine if I'm about to work out, period. I don't take it any other time. Why? Because I don't want to lose that positive addiction. Now, I maybe take 100 milligrams of caffeine now before I work out. So it's a lot less intense. But it has continually reinforced that action where now it takes more effort for me not to exercise. It's not as intense as when I was 14, but it takes more effort for me not to exercise than it does to exercise. So you can leverage outside substances, everything legal, right? Caffeine, so on, which is a very powerful drug, but yet we don't respect in America. People pop energy drinks like freaking crazy, or, ingest coffee, 500 milligrams, 300 milligrams a day, and don't think twice. Leverage it at the appropriate times to start to really get a lot out of step one. Cool? And now here's the cool thing. When you go to step two, it happens naturally. You don't even need to do anything. All you need to really do is step 1 and 3. Step 2 and 4 happen on their own. So really, this is a 2-step process with 2 other steps happening on their own just by doing the previous step. That's a pretty good deal. So step 2 is you achieve a positive feedback loop. What is a positive feedback loop? It's anything that essentially you take action towards and are rewarded more than you are given pain. And because of that, you want to do more of it. Again, I can't tell you how many times that I have worked with clients that have said, you'll never get me to like exercise. I hate exercise, or I will always hate exercise. And within a week to 2 weeks, after getting to know them and finding out what their human needs are, what they attribute a lot of pain and a lot of pleasure to, we achieve a positive feedback loop, and they are starting to ask me, hey, what else can I do? This is too, I kind of want to do more. Magic formula. This isn't complex. It's not hard to understand. You don't need to understand, every nuance to neuroscience about the axons in your neurons and the chemical pathways that have to happen with the synapses. You don't have to know any of that stuff. Just like how, in order to benefit from the electricity in your house, you don't need to know how the current works. All you got to do is flip the damn switch. This is your switch. Just flip the switch. Now, granted, yes, our coaches have years and years of experience with a bunch of people, so they understand how to get your switch to flip personally. But with this in mind, you can do it on your own. I'm not holding back. Ask me a question. I'll tell you. You'll never hear me say, ever. If you ask me a question and I know the answer, you'll never hear me say, well, talk to our coaches and, maybe if you sign up for coaching, No, I'm here to serve. All that's secondary. I'm here to serve you. Hopefully you can feel that. Right? I don't need to be making these podcasts much anymore. We already have a huge library of content and our coaches do a great job. But I'm not here to sell more coaching. I'm here to help you or somebody else that maybe is watching this today or maybe is watching this 2 months or 2 years from now break through because they stumbled upon it. Let's keep going. Number 3 is adapt and learn. So we did step 1. We're achieving a positive feedback loop, but you know what? It's okay. It's not, did you achieve a positive feedback loop or did you not? It's to what degree did you achieve a positive feedback loop? It's very important to understand. This is not a light switch of binary, hot and cold, white and black and white. This is a spectrum of gradient of how much you achieved it. So let's just say you achieved it 50% or 55%, where you're pulled to the positive of doing these actions, but it's not a strong pull. Well, now we adapt and learn. Well, how could I reduce pain even more? Well, man, I didn't even realize it, but I forgot my headphones, or I didn't even realize it, but the pair of headphones that I have aren't sound blocking enough. So because of that, I'm getting distracted by a bunch of the different noises in the gym, and it demotivates me. It takes me out of the moment, and it's less pleasurable. So I got these Beats headphones, and this is a real story with me. These are Beats headphones they're in my ears right now. But they're sound blocking headphones so that you can still hear a little bit of what's going on around you, but they're like Bose headphones where they how can I say that? They essentially they're noise canceling. Again, I don't understand it 100%, but they're noise canceling. So because of that, I have less distraction, more pleasure, and I actually want to do these actions more. Cool. Okay, invest in the headphones. What else? And you adapt and learn. Adapting and learning is one of the most important pieces to be able to break through permanently. Why? Because I can promise you that on day 1, if me and you create a plan together, and I think of everything I could possibly think of, and I'm like, do this, do that, here's what we're going to do, and here's what we're going to do 3 weeks from now, and here's what we're going to do 6 months from now, and here's what we're going to do a year from now, and this is your perfect plan, go! We cannot account for how you're going to accept these changes or these actions, how other circumstances in your life will affect you, right? Because I can promise you, you've probably heard me say this before, you starting your transformation today versus 6 months in the past versus 6 months in the future, even though you're the same person with relatively the same amount of weight you want to lose, body you want to transform, your plan would be different. Why? Because your circumstances are different. Personalization, in my opinion, like personalization times, the mechanics times the psychology, like this is how you get to your goal. I've gone on record many times in the past saying that, the reason our coaching works so well, it's not because I've given our coaches a magic formula and they follow the formula T for T. The reason that our coaching program does so well and we have such a high success rate in glowing reviews is because our coaches are amazing. Sure, I might have inspired a tiny bit of that for them, but really, it's that they're amazing coaches. And yeah, they follow our philosophies, but like they followed our philosophies before coming on the team or they wouldn't be on the team, right? It's part of the interview process. And the fact of the matter is they know exactly what to give our clients when they need it to compress decades into days and avoid pitfalls. Like that's the point of having a coach, right? So anyway, you adapt and learn. That's it. And then you start to create a new Fed identity. You do step 1, step 2 happens naturally. You do step 3, and then by enough repetitions, enough days, you start to create a new Fed identity. The best example of this I want to give you is think of it like an election. 2 people are running. Let's just say you're going to win by popular vote because we're not going to mess with any of that electoral stuff. It's too confusing. You're going to win by popular vote. Do you need all the votes 100% unanimous to win? No. You just need the majority. This is right in line with the idea that I like to share, the belief that you do not have to be perfect. A lot of people wait for the perfect time to start, whether with a coach or not, because they believe that, okay, this time I have the best chance of success because there's less variables that can throw me off. Fair. And there is some truth to that. But I would actually play devil's advocate and I would say, actually, when you are living your normal life is when you want to start. Why? Because if you just get to your goal and you adapt and you change while everything is peachy, and then hard shit happens, guess what? You're going to get knocked on your ass, and then you're going to have to restart again. That sucks! Like, let's start this when the times actually aren't ideal. Because if we can set up even lower pain actions and make it even easier, by the time the good times happen, of course you're going to stick to it. It's a breeze. It's even easier than it was before, right? Hopefully this is breaking through. A lot of people believe that in order for them to get significant change long term, that they need to radically change, that they need to go and say, all right, no more sugar. I denounce you, sugar. They go to the grocery store, they stand on a little soapbox, a milk carton, and they say, I'm never eating sugar again. And then not only 2 weeks later are they going, well, one bite can't hurt. It's crazy. Don't fall into that same boat. Think of it like building a house of cards. You can build a house of cards very quickly, but the problem is that when the first gust of wind comes, which it will come, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you don't have any problems, one's coming. Once a problem comes, it blows you over. You have to build something solid, brick by brick, so that when anything comes, it's infallible. It is immovable. And yes, it takes longer to build, but I promise you, once you really have this built, there's no going back. This is identity change. The strongest force in the human personality is staying consistent with the way we see ourselves. If you believe you are fit, you will do fit actions. I guarantee it. And if you fall off, not only but a day, you will be right back where you started. If you're out there and you've had this breakthrough, let me know in the comments. Because I'm sure there's people listening to this right now that are like, okay, whatever. It's hard to believe until you've experienced it. But I promise you it's possible. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully it's motivating, to say the least. Kylie says, Shannon, good to see you. Kylie says, Coach Rachel had a magic wand with fairy dust. Yeah, as much as maybe we want to believe that, Kylie, it's because you're awesome, right? It's because you know, whether it's because you trusted in Rachel or you took the actions, you have gotten to a place that you are on a path where you have so much tailwinds pushing you forward. You have such a good, I'll say, vision of your future that you will never go back to the place you were in, the disempowered place you are. You are empowered. The best is yet to come. Kylie says, no radical changes, just small steps and changes. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Kylie says, thank you. My pleasure. Look, Kylie, I appreciate you being here because, you know, it gives at least a small sliver of proof, right? A small sliver of belief, right? Evidence. Right now, anyone who has listened to these podcasts and has not taken action, it simply comes down to the fact that they do not believe it's possible for them. And it might seem redundant to pop on these calls and to say a lot of the same stuff that I've been saying for the last 2 years in this group. But belief, as corny as it sounds, is the first thing you need to take new action. So the fact that you're here now is actually extremely valuable. The fact that you wrote a review, you know, like, let me pull you up really quick. RN Body Transformation Soup.com. That's how you know this is live. We're pulling all this up in real time, baby. So, like, the fact that you wrote a review, let's find Kylie's review. Kylie. Kylie, where are you? Hey, there you are. Okay, 3 months ago. So, like, the fact that Kylie wrote a review, it's, you know, okay, I see she said this here. She's saying it in the comments that she's broken through. Okay, cool. Like, it's just, it may not be the deciding factor to somebody taking action, whether it's getting with a coach or starting their own journey, that's fine. But it's a small glimmer of hope, this small piece of evidence that, maybe it is possible. And this is why the first, I'll call it, pillar to being able to have the belief necessary to have a breakthrough is you need to see other people who are like you that have done it. Have you ever asked the question, right? Why do we work with RNs? Wouldn't this work for everyone? Wouldn't this work for any high-stressed individual? The answer is yes. But one of the reasons is because we want a group of some of the highest stressed individuals, but also a group of individuals that are so alike each other, because RNs specifically are a unique breed. If you're an RN out there right now and you're listening, there's a certain identity that goes along with being an RN, right? And when you hear somebody like that's lost weight and sustained it, you're like, yeah, it worked for them because they're a teacher. Or yeah, it worked well for them because they're a stay-at-home mom. Or yeah, it worked for them because they don't have the same stress as I do. But when you see person, RN, after RN, after RN, all saying, yeah, I work night shift, and like I never thought something could work, and it has, right? So on and so forth. This creates the belief that's necessary to be able to just get that glimmer bright enough to say, you know what? Maybe I can do this. And again, I can do this doesn't mean buy our program, do our thing. This means start your journey. If you want to work with us, fine. But that's not the point of these podcasts. The point of these podcasts are to plant a seed that, tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks from now, you have a new idea that this is possible for yourself. Hope says restarting again. Let's go. Hope. If you haven't checked the beginning of the podcast, check it. Like rewatch it. I go in the beginning and like this could be the foundation for you to start and never stop again. Not necessarily because you're working with a coach, but because you just decide and you follow the framework that's worked for a lot of our clients in the past. Again, not saying because you get a coach, but because I shared it, right? You can do this. You can make this the last time. You can. I freaking promise you, because I've seen it so many times, you can change. You can grow, right? You are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. That is true. But you can change what you are. You can change where you are simply by changing what goes into your mind. So I recommend rewatching this podcast so you have the ideas necessary to be able to start and never stop again, following a different approach. Powerful. Kylie says it starts with, I think I can do this, then I am doing this, to then I can do this. Yes. It's not, just like we were talking before, it's not do you believe or do you not? It's to what level do you believe you can do this? Right? If this is beneficial at all, feel free to like this video, comment below so more people see it. At the end of the day, this is about breaking through. And you don't have one breakthrough. The fact of the matter is, we have multiple breakthroughs after breakthrough after breakthrough. But the idea is that once you break through, you never move backwards. That is like taking the brick slab and laying it down and then laying the next one on top and it being immovable. It's the old story of the tortoise and the hare. We all know it. And we know the moral. We know that slow and steady wins the race. But even though we know it logically, emotionally, I think I could be the hare. And we all try to race to the finish. But I promise you, anyone I've ever seen race to the finish suffers the same fate of the hare, where essentially they're disqualified and they have to restart the race. Don't be like the hare. Don't restart. Go at a pace that you can start and never stop again. Go at a pace. Because this is a marathon, right? And if I say, hey, go run the marathon and run as fast as you can, guess what's going to happen? Around mile 2, because you're sprinting, or screw it, if you're me, I can't even sprint a mile. Sprint a mile? You crazy? Around a quarter mile after sprinting hard, I'm going to go, and I'm going to have to walk it off. Right? There's a lesson in that. Maybe you should have been walking the whole time. Metaphorically. Maybe you should walk. And then here's the funny thing. When you're starting and never stopping again, once you do cross the metaphorical finish line, you just keep walking. Because you realize that this was never about the finish line in the first place. This isn't about getting healthy. This is about staying healthy. This isn't about fitting in your jeans. This is about staying and being able to fit in your jeans for the rest of your life. This is about achieving a new, I hate to be corny, lease on life. It's to regain the glimmer that you lost. There is no reason you have to go through this life surviving. And there's every reason that you can go through this life thriving. And that's my invitation to you. Life's too short to just survive and be at the end. They say that they interviewed people in retirement homes and asked, what are your biggest regrets? And one of them was, I didn't take enough chances. Otherwise known as, I didn't start again. They didn't start enough. They either didn't take the right approach or they didn't start enough times to be able to make the next time the winning time. And look, I know what it feels like. Trust me, I'm an entrepreneur. Yes, we have a successful business here and we help a lot of people. I'm a big believer that we can get everything in life we want if we'll just help enough other people get what they want. But I promise you, this did not just naturally come. Being an entrepreneur means you wake up every morning and get punched in the face and you just keep going. And now I am very grateful to say that doesn't really happen much anymore because we are stable and we're helping a lot of people consistently and every part of the business is strong. But there was a time, geez, talk about getting punched in the face every day. When I started my first personal training business, it was called Ryan Clark Fitness. And I didn't want to work at a gym where they took half of the proceeds from the training, or even more, like they take 60% or 70%. They pay you just an hourly rate, pretty much what they would pay somebody bagging groceries. And I was like, all right, I don't want to do that. I'll start my own business. And the only gym that would allow me to pay a flat rent, which was only $275 a month, and I did the math, and at the time I was only charging like $30 an hour for a session. And I was like, all right, all I need is one client and it pays for rent. I can do that. And I was living at home, driving my parents' 2004 Dodge Caravan. And it all seemed like this could be a great fit because I was hungry. But at this gym, we were two people that, did not want me there. They were both personal trainers that had been renting out that gym for 20 years. And talk about being territorial. I'll tell you some of the things they did, but before that, I was hungry. And I would stand, it's funny, I said, hey, how do I market myself? And they said, oh, well, you can't market, you can't give your cards out to members because that's a conflict of interest with the other trainers. And they said, you can only get a client if they ask you about it. And I said, fair. And I'm, 18 years old. So of course I'm following the rules 100%. As I got older, I realized a lot of the rules that are put in place are just because that's the way it's always been done, or it's not in the best interest of all parties. But like a good boy, I accepted and didn't push back. And I would literally stand at the door from 5 a.m. until around 1, and I would eat standing up at the door, right? Because I was trying to gain weight at the time. I was a very skinny child, a very skinny kid, even until my young adult years. And at 1 o'clock, I'd work out until 3 o'clock, and then I'd go back for my standing at the door. And I'd stand at the door from 3 p.m. to then 10 p.m. when they closed. And I'd do that every day. And around week 2, I met my first clients, which I'll share with you are Aaron and Rick. And they were some of the best first clients I could have ever gotten, because they helped me see over time after I shared with you what these other two guys did consistently, helped me keep going. These other two guys, I don't think were bad people at their core, but I think they were afraid. And at the time, I didn't understand it, but reflecting back, I realized that they were just afraid. They were, 20 years, 30 years my senior, but they were just afraid children. Because every day they would physically intimidate me, or try to. And they would, physically not only try to intimidate me, but verbally abuse me. They would push me. And anytime I brought it up to management, they didn't seem to care. And said, well, if you don't want to be here, then leave. Fair. That's where I built a lot of stone skin. And I'm grateful for the experience because it started to teach me that, it's if you want something, you're going to have to fight for it. And things got so bad to the point that one day after training, and at this point, they really didn't like me because I had a full client roster. They both did not. All clients that I got on my own. And some of their clients had moved over to me, which they were very much not happy about. So much so that one day when I came out of training, I went to my parents' 2004 Dodge Caravan, and all 4 tires were essentially deflated, and I could see the puncture holes, and those puncture holes weren't there, all four of them, when I got there. And of course, funny enough, the gym had cameras. So I went over to management and I said, hey, I don't think this was on accident, and I don't think that this was just. I think this was blah blah. And he said, okay, I'll look at it. Well, conveniently enough, the camera wasn't on during that specific time. Funny. That was a very interesting time. Shortly after, long story short, some rumors went around that I was gonna open a gym next door. And again, people are afraid, there's fear. They know that I'm a young gun ready to go. And they kicked me out of that gym. The management, they said, you can't train here anymore because, we're going to just take all our members and go to this gym over here or start your own gym. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Why would I do that? I have a great gig here. Whatever, it didn't matter. They kicked me out. And then I went to another gym. And then shortly after, I bit the bullet and I said, all right, let me start my first gym. And that was 5-Star Boot Camp, baby, in Westwood, Massachusetts. And that was a whole nother series of learnings where, man, I got out of one abusive relationship, which it wasn't exactly a relationship. It was more like a, proximity, and went to another one, less severe, but still severe, where the landlord was very abusive. Like, not physically, because, what are you going to do? I'm 22 years old and starting to get muscly and did martial arts my whole life. What are you going to do? But verbally. And I felt, okay, I cannot do anything because if I speak back, I'll lose my spot, my gym, right? So I just endured it for a long time. Eventually they sold that complex, but man, if me saying I had a chip on my shoulder to be so successful and make so much money that nobody could ever control me again was an understatement. And luckily, I feel like I'm at a pretty good place now where I don't feel like people have that control over me, which is good. And now I can just focus on serving not only you guys, but serving my family and serving my friends and sort of thing. But I'd say the thing that helped me through that the most was, because here, wrapping this all up, it's like we're talking about input, right? Man, I had some negative input coming in. The only reason I was able to go past that is because of just the sheer volume of positive input that I was having in my mind every day. You see, when I was standing at that first gym trying to, just greet every single person, hey, how are you? Hey, enjoy your workout. Eventually someone would stop and they'd say, hey, what do you do? Do you work here? And I'm like, well, technically I don't work for the gym, but I'm a personal trainer and Ryan Clark Fitness, blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? And it's like, oh yeah, I've been wanting to get one. Great. What I didn't say before was that I would have my headphones on, my wired headphones back then, and I'd be listening to audio tapes all day. And these audio tapes may not seem like they have a big difference, talking about Tony Robbins' Unleash the Giant Within, or Zig Ziglar Born to Win, or See You at the Top. But when I tell you that you are what you are and where you are because of what goes into your mind, that was told me by Zig Ziglar. And that, I'd have to say, is the cornerstone of why I've been able to be resilient enough to this point, because I didn't love where I was at certain times of my life and certain areas of my life, but I never stopped and accepted it as the fact. I've never stopped and accepted it as my destiny or just this is the way it is, because I realized that I am not stuck where I am. I am not stuck thinking the way I think. I am not stuck, because I can change where I am by changing simply what goes into my mind. Just like how you are not stuck. That definition may feel strong because, yes, you've been in the same place for years and haven't seen much change. But whether you've been in the place you are for a day, a month, a year, a decade, you have all the power, no matter how long, to break out and break through. And I'm not just telling you that to get you pumped up. I'm telling you that because I've done it. I am the poster child for I shouldn't be here. Like, I shouldn't. Things didn't come naturally. I'll just say that. But I developed the skills. I developed, like, people say to me sometimes, like, oh man, you must have been so popular in high school. I was a loner, man. I had no friends. Nobody wanted to associate. Like, I was so quiet. Like, the person that you see now that can communicate with you somewhat well, half well, and be able to confidently peer into your soul and say, you can change, you can grow, and mean it, is simply because I've seen it happen with myself time and time and time and time again. And yes, I've seen it so many times in clients' lives as well. But of course, I'm convinced that you can change because I have. So if you're out there and you're ready to make a change, let's do it. Let's make that change. I don't know you personally, probably, if you're listening to this, but I have love for you, and you can make that change. I promise you. If you're interested in coaching, feel free to click the link above or below. You can discover how we get results for our clients, and if it's a good fit, you can schedule a call with our team. That's it for today. I'll see you guys soon. If this was beneficial, feel free to like it. You can comment below. I'll come back and answer the comments as well and help you guys out where I can. Love you guys. See ya.